So the plan was working great. Kids was with them for all their sports. I was with them for music, church. So we really enjoyed traveling, and I ended up calculating our countries, 57 countries. Cindy to 55 countries, and Nicole, last I knew, was up to 44 countries. Brandon ended up going to the Air Force, so he lagged a little bit, but he's probably 20, 25. So we all appreciated cultures. We also appreciated our nation. So we did appreciate other cultures, but we again saw this, how the opportunities are here, where if you have an idea and you want to do it, you just do it. Level where we're always looking, right? What's next? More that energy, that inner go. 2008, and I was pitching men's league down in Clearwater, Florida, and we won the championship. We were undefeated, so we went to Buffalo Wild Wings. And Windsor Marsh, as always, was reliable. He ordered his brewski right away. He ordered Sam Adams beer. And then Richard Kemet said to me, Rand, you're a patriotic guy. Do you know much about Sam Adams? He's sort of related to John Adams, and he stirred things up, Tea Party, you know. And Richard said, you should read a book on him. It's pretty interesting. I said, okay. And I read it on Sam Adams. I was transformed. I was ashamed of myself, because here, being a patriotic American, I did not know that this Sam Adams deserved so much honor and respect. I just started reading. So for the next 3.5 years, I read 51,000 pages and about 100 books on general. There were about 47 to 50 founding fathers, founding mothers, and what I call key contributors that I had studied. And for no purpose, no reason, but every time I would read a book about a person, I would write down in a file, like, what did they do? What did they accomplish? What did they achieve? Blah, 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 blah. I had nice, interesting, some a little bit more. And it was all good. But there was one gentleman that I had no interest in studying. That was Alexander Hamilton. So I was enjoying studying all of these other founding fathers, all the struggles about the Constitution, the first few terms of first few presidents of the United States. And then there was a book that was recommended. Very often in a book, it would recommend other books, suggested reading. And one of them I saw a couple times was Founding Brothers by Joseph Ellis. So I knew how hard it was to transform a business. I could see the complication of trying to transform a country that had just gotten its independence, had tried to put together Articles of Confederation, tried to have some strength at the national level, and state governors wanted to go in their own direction. I could see the difficulty, and I was reflecting on how we live today. I'm like, well, that's a big difference from where we started and how we got there. So I learned that Hamilton had something to do with it, so I started reading Hamilton. So then I went heavy Hamilton, 34 books I read. Of October 8th, 2011, boom. Everything came into focus. All these things I had, I got the first statement. Alexander Hamilton was George Washington's indispensable partner in war and peace for over 22 years. Okay, so that was a statement that would be impressive to people. And then I had all the evidence behind every word. What he did during the war, what he did during the peace, how he was indispensable to Washington. And then I said, well, look at all the things that Hamilton did for the foundations that we live with today. So then I came up with the statement that Alexander Hamilton created the vision and foundations upon which the United States of America achieved greatness. And I had the proof behind that. So for the next 5 days through October 12th, I wrote, composed, and consolidated. I worked 20 to 23 hours per day, full of energy. And the Alexander Hamilton Awareness Society was founded on October 11th. So that was the 4th day in when I knew we had to have an organization. October 11th, 2011, that the Alexander Hamilton Awareness Society was born. And I sketched out a PowerPoint presentation. She and I decided to come up to New York City for Hamilton's birthday on January 11th. I had met Janie Gwill and Bill Crystal, who were early dedicated to the scholarship about Hamilton, just really precious people. It's helpful. So I went to him and I said, I'm going up there. Are there any activities going on up at Trinity, where he's buried here in Lower Manhattan? And Janie said, well, there's a guy I met up there. He seems to be on top of things, and Arthur Piccolo. And so she gave me his email, and it was just a few days before, 2 days before, and I sent a note up to Arthur Piccolo, and I said, is there something going on? He said, I'll be there, and we will have a ceremony to honor him. Arthur led it. He was very kind to let me say a few words. It was really special. It meant a lot to me. That was January 11th, 2012. We started setting up, starting that July of 2012, Celebrate Hamilton. The next January we started Happy Birthday Hamilton in 2013, and we worked on connecting with Nevis and with St. Croix. Evelyn Henville and the dignitaries from Nevis we connected with, and again, Arthur was helpful in connecting us there, to the point where as we became not only a nonprofit, but in 2013, we filed to become a 501c3 that was going to be critical if people were going to donate money to sustain our work. Once that was approved by the IRS, we moved to another level. So once we had our program, Celebrate Hamilton, Happy Birthday Hamilton, we started expanding out and holding events at these various places, because we would show these sites how we could share information and the excitement and bring people in to the various programs. So of course we started at Lower Manhattan, where Hamilton was a lawyer and lived, and many of the children were born, went to Trinity Church, baptized here. And of course right here behind me you might see part of the church of Trinity Church, and below me right here is Hamilton's grave monument. So this is really the heart of it. Big happened that first July of 2012. We met Michael E. Newton there. The power of social media. Nicole sent it out through Twitter. He saw it. He was there. So I said, there's a real need to clean up his formative years. He said, oh, that's right. There's so much weakness here. Developed a relationship with Federal Hall. Now this is where George Washington was inaugurated as the first president of the United States on April 30th, 1789. On September 11th, 1789, Arthur and I agree was a real changing point, transformative point in our nation. Hamilton became Secretary of Treasury right there at Federal Hall. That's where he also founded the Coast Guard, the U.S. Customs that he led, and the Lighthouse Service, Superintendent of Lighthouse Service, et cetera, et cetera. And his first monumental report on credit. So a lot of the beginning of Hamilton under the Constitution happened right here. So there's a lot right here in Lower Manhattan where Hamilton made his mark. He also made his mark as a lawyer, and he was also a lawyer down here on Wall Street and Pine and a few other locations locally. So we got that covered initially. We got Hamilton's home. So that was July of 2012. Then we turned to the Happy Birthday Hamilton in January. We're back here at his grave, but we also then connected with Nevis, where he was born. And we did a number of creative things with satellite connections. So we've done that kind of thing regularly, including the U.S. Coast Guard, the Bowling Green Association with Arthur. We've had the raising of the flag and the large flagpole here, thanks to the work Arthur did to get those flags. And so that got his birthday. So those are two main times: birthday, January; his death when we celebrate his life in July, when a lot of people are able to travel and it's a little warmer. From there, we started branching out to other locations. So we went into North Jersey. When you study Alexander Hamilton's life, you find that a lot of Hamilton's key moments of life happened in North Jersey. The first one, of course, when he came to the mainland, was Elizabethtown, where he went to prep school so he could go to college. So that's a remarkable place, now called the Snyder Academy. There's the Boxwood Hall, which was Elias Boudinot's home, that was a mentor and housed Alexander Hamilton. during his stay there. There's the William Livingston family, very close and often housed Alexander Hamilton. So those two mentors were real key. So through just calling up the different sites of places we knew Hamilton had those key roles and responsibilities, we just called directly. We met up with them, told them what we were doing. They were interested. We heard that this gentleman, Lin-Manuel Miranda, had been writing some songs to the musical, which we'd heard about, but he was going to take it to a reading festival at Vassar College, where I got married, in Poughkeepsie, where my wife and I worked for IBM, and the ratification happened on July 26th. The reading festival was a 3-week festival. It's been going on for over 100 years. Finally, I get word they decided to do it on the 27th. Great. So they said, we got some tickets. We met Ron Chernow the night before. That C-SPAN just filmed our 15th event in 5 years. We're very grateful to them because, again, that gets the word out and educates. And it's great that they found there's enough value in the speakers that we're bringing forward and the information to do that. And we then had a number of Hamilton on the Hudson events in Poughkeepsie because when Hamilton served at in New Windsor near Newburgh, New York, when he was chief of staff to Washington, the winter encampments were there. Hamilton often stopped there. After he was married, he lived across the river, which they called Fishkill Landing. We call Beacon now. So we've been back to Beacon with events and the perimeter of the home that was there. So we did that. Then we went up the rest of the Hudson. We went up to where his wife, Betsy Elizabeth Schuyler, grew up and lived, and where they were married. So we held events up there. We enriched Hamilton's at the various sites he spent on the Hudson River. We did New York City, we told you about. We did North Jersey. Now the next one in 2013, after Happy Birthday Hamilton, this was really big, Philadelphia. Many people didn't realize the extent of Hamilton's work and as a military person, etc., in Philadelphia. And there was nothing. Again, Hamilton was a non-entity in Philadelphia, total non-entity. Now, what a transformation. The National Constitution Center has an exhibit dedicated to Hamilton. In their main exhibit space, they have big discs, bright discs pointing anything to do with Hamilton. They have a Hamilton trivia in the center of that walk area. When we first showed up, they had not one book, not one cup, not one trinket to do with Hamilton. Now it is full of it there. And they said it's their biggest seller. They can't keep things on the shelf. When I talked to the director, Museum of the American Revolution, incredible commitment and respect and knowledge and scholarly understanding about Hamilton. And they've had an exhibit that went on earlier last year, but now they have a major exhibit. The whole first floor is now going to be dedicated to 5 elements of Hamilton's life. And they're not only saying this is what Hamilton did, but it's geared to 4th to 6th graders, where they're going to put uniforms on. They're going to see mutinies coming forward. They're going to design their own money. So it'll all be hands-on. And the big deal is that they're not just saying this is what Hamilton did. They're saying these are the qualities, the characteristics of Hamilton. Young people, you should embrace them and make them part of your life. That is really, really a big change. So Philadelphia's next. The last big area we needed to get to was Washington, D.C. Now, Hamilton never was in D.C. There was no part of his life because the capital of the United States was in Philadelphia. After it moved 2 years here, 89, 90, it moved for the next 10 years to Philadelphia. By that time, Hamilton's role as Secretary of Treasury and subsequently Major General of the military ended in 1800 in Philadelphia. But we know that's where the center of the government is. That's where U.S. Treasury is now. Another mint is there. So we've been nurturing that along. And just this year, major events at the Society of Cincinnati headquarters, George Washington University, Antonia Chambers. We've spoken and had speakers at U.S. Treasury. Lastly, an area that gets nowhere near the attention it should. So you have the Hudson River, goes from New York City up to our capital, Albany. Of course, what's interesting, the capital back then, it would go from New York City, before it was the Constitution, New York City, to Poughkeepsie, which was halfway to Albany, back, boom, 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 and now it's in Albany. West of there is the Mohawk River, and there was so much Revolutionary War heroism with Fort Stanwix and Oriskany Battlefield and General Herkimer and Marinus Willett. And so we just had Hamilton there just in the last 2 weeks. I spoke twice, one on Hamilton's military service that spanned 25 years, and then I gave a talk on Hamilton, the man versus the musical, Stanwix. So we've got Hamilton, we have the relationships, we have programming from Lower Manhattan, Upper Manhattan, North Jersey, Central Jersey, the Battle of Monmouth, and Trenton, Princeton, we have Philadelphia, Valley Forge, DC, Hudson River, and Mohawk. So they know who we are, they know if they have information that they want, so that was really big. In parallel, our big core mission is accurate information about Hamilton. So in every one of those regions, cities, Hamilton locations, the Alexander Hamilton Awareness Society, we're the ones that enriched each of those sites with programs there and with information and with websites and with social media relationships, to the point that a year and a half ago, one of the biggest, most prideful moments for the Alexander Hamilton Awareness Society, the AHA Society, is that the National Park Service signed a formal contract with us to become the official interpretive partners of Hamilton's home. And so we've been providing speakers. Arthur got to speak, Michael Newton, Nicole, our board, Marianne and Tom Oliver. So we keep bringing people that are scholarly and knowledgeable, accurate information. In parallel, very important, people started learning that because we knew the scholarly aspect of Alexander Hamilton, we started having publishers, authors coming to us to review their books. We also, with Hamilton founding the Coast Guard, we've had extensive relationships with them. First of all, Sector 1, Sector New York, has been just wonderful with being available at both the Happy Birthday Hamilton events and Celebrate Hamilton and other events throughout the year. I was communicating with Lin-Manuel Miranda by email about once a month. Obviously I didn't bother him, but I let him know that Nicole and I were coming up because he stated, I want this to be historically accurate. He had been to a couple of our AHA events up at Morris Jamel Mansion, who's been a great partner of ours, and down here at Trinity Church. He came down here with his crew to film, bringing together what Arthur Piccolo, what our society's done. We're trying to bring together the slivers of people who have knowledge about Hamilton and create that creative mass, critical mass to give strength. And with the musical now, we have wind with our sails, not in our face. When you look at the facts and the evidence that no one was more important to Washington's success during the war, establishing the Constitution, 2 terms as president, and then during the quasi-war, than Alexander Hamilton. When you look at the foundations we live with today, from foreign policy, law, military, finance, economics, and Constitution, all the key areas, Hamilton led in all of them. And not only the Constitution is a neat sheet of paper, but it's not just that. It's breathing life into it, making it work, finding those checks and balances, finding balance in the executive branch, where before the legislative branch was always the boss and the executive branch didn't exist, first of all, but they were thinking they just follow what was passed. But now there's much more responsibility. One last point that's very important is that Hamilton looked for energy within the executive branch, but it wasn't to be a big, monolithic, giant organization. There were a few delegated tasks within the Constitution to the executive branch. Within those few tasks, Hamilton said it should be full of energy and full of action. And